really you were kind of building the base of a pyramid of a whole series of albums that would come out eventually.
Yeah, and kudos to I think our label Warner put that version of it together, and I know there was the Much thing. Obviously, there was it's a kind of a common thing for people in the business to go, oh, the music business, and obviously with the Spotifys of the world and people making all the money off the back of the work that creative people are doing, and then just keeping the money and making it unfair. That part of it sucks, but I've come to really appreciate the people who just make things happen in the industry. There had to be a person who went, hey, it would be a good idea to do this compilation, and it's like a film producer pulling together all these different disparate players with different agendas and making them agree to be a part of a project and be on a thing. I've come to really respect that game and that energy, that someone had an idea and they realized it and made it a thing, and as a result there are a bunch of people who got to hear some music that they may not have.
It's funny that you mentioned the music industry and finances, because you never really thought too much about it, because with the new iTunes and the Spotify's and the Play Stores with memberships, the songs people might go up and pick up a single or something for like $1 or $2, and it doesn't seem like much in the grand scheme of things. But I remember going to record stores, which I think they still called it at the time, even though CDs were coming in, and dropping $35 on a single CD. And it's true. It was like the mixtape. Like, you go because you're like, I like this artist, I like this artist, I haven't heard anybody else. And then when you realize that choice was golden, like everybody on that album was amazing. And then all of a sudden your circle of musicians and the songs and artists that you like all of a sudden just went exponentially larger, because you were going for 2 or 3 and you came out with like 15 artists that were just absolutely perfect. So, things that you can't do on iTunes.
That is, and there was something about, if you throw a free concert and give people tickets, a pretty small percentage of them actually come, where even if the tickets are $5, when the day comes and it's like, oh, I have that concert. Oh, I was going to watch that episode of this on Netflix. Oh, but I did pay $5 for it. I'm going to go. It has value and I'm going to go see it. I think is an interesting psychological thing, where I used to, when I was a kid and I had like 5 tapes or 3 CDs, I knew every sonic millimeter of those things, and each one of them would be my companion for an entire summer or an entire winter, and I just pour through the liner notes and knew everything about them. The scarcity made them precious, where then it's exactly like you said, went through that era of the thing I invested the most money in, maybe even more than musical gear like guitars, was records, because that would be the only way you could hear stuff. And we do tours with other bands and go, okay, what do you guys have in your VHS tapes before YouTube? We toured with Kenny Wayne Shepherd and he has Hendrix live at the Albert Hall, and we're going to trade him Freddie King in Dallas for a week so we can watch each other. And now it's like I could recall any of those things in a second on my phone.
Yep.
But it was scarce and precious, and you'd have to know who had bootlegs, or if we were on tour, oh, this place has a whole bunch of board tapes of people who played at places, and you can actually hear the live show. Where all that stuff is so accessible now.
You're like the musicians of like children trading sports cards and stuff when you're kids, right? You're like, you got this one? Oh my god, I've got this one.
Need him, got him. Need him, got him.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's absolutely hilarious. Like, who would have thought, right? I mean, you're thinking you're out there and you're rocking stages and you're touring with amazing people, and yet behind the scenes you're like, have you guys seen these guys? Well, I got this. I've got them on tape. Who do you have?
It was that actually, you could search for years and never find the 19th minute of Django Reinhardt recorded footage of him playing guitar. And now you can find it. And I yearn a bit for the search, the having to wait for something made the getting it all the sweeter. And now people, often we'll listen to the first few seconds of a song, and then it's like that Seinfeld quote of, people don't care what's on TV, they care what else is on TV, and they channel surf looking for something else new to amuse them. And in a way, what's fun about reissuing the Stu record is that you put the record on and it just becomes part of your environment. It plays in a linear fashion from one song to the next in order, and there's no jumping around, and it just kind of inhabits your space with you.
Yes. I think this is why a lot of people have ADHD nowadays, is they just can't sit and focus because of all the technology. I mean, we had to sit through things. We listened to one artist sing an entire 12 tracks of something when you put a CD in. It wasn't just jumping all over the place. And maybe when you think about it, maybe when those mixtapes came out, that was like the first start of it, and then it just progressively got worse and worse.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
All right, Matty, you had another question.
Actually, I was going to ask a question there, because it is kind of, speaking of kind of trading all the old tapes of artists and whatnot, because you guys are such a melting pot of genres, I have to ask, and you probably do get this question a lot, but who were your primary influences when you guys were starting out, as far as, what you wanted to sound like?
Oh, good question. For me, the beginning of When Doves Cry and the end of Let's Go Crazy by Prince, when I heard those in 1984, I was a 10-year-old who went, okay, I need to get a guitar to make the sound that he's making. That was
awesome.
This is something I need to do, and I just lived Purple Rain for a couple of years. And then
that's really cool.
Then somebody made me a tape that had Jimi Hendrix live at the BBC on one side. Someone made me a mixtape that had Hendrix live at the BBC on one side and John Lee Hooker on the other side. And those, I was living through the era of, I loved, Prince and Michael Jackson and the Police. But then I heard Hendrix and John Lee, and it just terrified me at first. It was like, this is raggedy sounding raw music, and then it just got its hooks in me, and an unsung hero, well, obviously everyone knows who he is, but a beautiful thing that Stevie Ray Vaughan did when he became popular was to direct everybody to his influences. He'd always go, if you like me, you got to check out the B.B. King live at the Regal record. You have to check out Freddie King and Albert King, and he pointed people in the direction of where to find inspiration that really got him going. So, yeah, for me, it was Prince and Hendrix and SRV. And then when I met my drummer, Safwan, who's been the Masons drummer for, since the first minute, he was turning me on to not only Pakistani Qawwali music, where singers like Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan and Qawwali singers who are just the most technically amazing, passionate, incredible singers. And at the same time, he was really into reggae. He was really into hip hop. So on all those drives between cities that we would do for hours and hours, we'd be playing each other that. Earl, our original bassist, was really into Stax and Motown and James Jamerson, and so it would be a melting pot of exposing each other to all these different things, and the records really not having any imposed boundaries on them. We always kind of figured if we do any kind of song and it's me singing and it's us playing, the usness is inescapable. We won't be able to not sound like us. So we might as well just try everything, try all kinds of arrangements, try every kind of song we think would be fun to play live in front of people and make them fit on a record together.
Wow.
Very cool. That's awesome, man.
Awesome.
It's, not a lot of artists can say that they've been able to display that versatility. You know what I mean? So that's really cool. Really cool.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think there's the two schools, right? Either hone a thing so that, the minute you say AC/DC, you know what that sounds and feels like and what inhabits that universe, or CCR. They have a vibe that's almost like a spice, where as soon as you taste that spice, that's them. And then there are the shapeshifters and the evolvers who are continually chasing something. And that was another bit of Prince influences. Every record, he'd even look different. He'd have a different hairstyle and different clothes and play a different guitar, and really made them unique projects that where he was stretching himself to do a bunch of different things. So we've always been inspired by that and wanted to see how many different directions we can take it.
That's really awesome. Now, I just because you also brought this up, and it actually was one of my questions, because of obviously some influences there. You guys had created an album that was exclusively for China, and on that album you did a rendition of Billie Jean. Yes. Now, I got to tell you, this I listened to this. This was fantastic. You guys did an amazing. You took your own twist on such a great song. And do you guys ever have any plan on bringing that for like Canadian American markets to listen to? Because I really think with a lot of people that are doing covers, especially when you have other bands doing covers, it's kind of a hot item. And you guys, you guys sounded great.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so our manager at the time got these people from China got in touch with him and went, "Hey, we have all these symphony orchestras, and we need to bring an artist over to play original material with them. Do you have anybody?" And he was working with this young sort of composer artist, like a John Teshi new agey composer, and he brought him over, and he played with the symphony orchestras of Beijing and Wuhan and Shijiazhuang, and the tour was a big success. And so they said, "Hey, what else do you have, manager guy?" And he said, "Well, I have this blues rock band, but I don't know what of that would be allowed to be released in China. They're signed to Warner," and the people in China said, "Well, there is a Warner China, but bootlegging is rampant. As soon as anything's put out here, there's a black market version of it with 30 extra songs and a laser disc of live performance." But they went, "Well, let's just go through the band's catalog and see which of the songs clear the censor.
Yep.
And we'll put this record out and bring the band over to tour. And we'll just tell everybody in China that they're the biggest band in North America." And the posters were hilarious. It was a photo of us, and it would say, like, almost as if it was one word, "Wide Mouth Mason opened for Rolling Stones and AC/DC, performing here on this day." So we showed up in the airport, and it was like Beatlemania. It was full of thousands of kids who'd never heard of us before, but they were assured that we were a massive North American band coming to play there. And we traveled around for a couple of weeks performing in these big, beautiful symphonic theaters, and baffling the audience with playing blues rock music. And you could watch it spread like a wave, where they'd start to stand up and start to move, and security would look at them, and they'd look at security like, "Is this okay?" "Yeah, I think it's okay." And it was some of the most surreal touring we've ever done. But I think the reason we couldn't release Billie Jean in North America, and obviously MJ's legacy is pretty controversial and concerning, but there was one part in the song where I say "mama" and Michael said "mother" on the recording, and the people guarding his estate were such that, look, he can't take any liberties with the lyrics on any of Michael's songs.
Okay.
So since you changed the lyrics, you cannot release the song commercially in North America. And we were like, well, change "mama" and "mother." It's, if "mother" was written on a check, you could cash it in Mama's bank account. Like, they would know that that's the same thing.
Yep.
But from what I recall, that was the sticking point, was that you change the words, and we don't know if it's a parody. We don't know what you're trying to do, so you can't release it in North America.
What if you guys changed it back to "mother"? Screw you, man! We're not messing with our lyrics.
Why didn't I think of that?
You're right.
But yeah, that was a good gem. I remember the now I can hear it in my head, and that was a pretty good take
Yeah.
on that. On our most recent record, right before COVID and even before the